Hey class, in today's lesson we're going to talk about Law of Cosines, which is found in section 6.2 part 1. Our objective is to use the Law of Cosines to solve oblique triangles, and those oblique triangles are either side, 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 or side, angle, side. So for the Law of Cosines, there are two cases that remain when solving for those triangles. It's side, 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 and side, angle, side. So to use the Law of Sines, you must know at least one side and its opposite angle. If you are given three sides, side, 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 or two sides and they're included angle, side, none of the ratios in the Law of Sines would be complete. So in those cases, that's when you use Law of Cosines. So what I tell people is if you ever are like confused on, what formulas to use, it's pretty much kind of easy to figure out. If you can't use Law of Sines, you have no choice but to use Law of Cosines. So there's really no overlap in, using the wrong formula. It's going to be pretty obvious when you try to use a math, whether it's going to work or not. So with Law of Cosines, it's just a tad bit different. If you wanted to find the side of a Law of Cosines, then you use the formulas on the left. If you're trying to find the angles, then you use the formulas on the right. And remember, with the formulas on the right, don't forget that if you actually want to find the true angle, the sides on the right actually help you set it up, but you still have to go back and do the inverse. So if I want to use the first formula, cosine A, let's say after I put everything in, I get cosine A equal to 0.9, right? I would still have to go back and use the inverse of cosine of 0.9 to be able to find the angle of A. We'll see that in action in just a moment, so I don't want to go too far. And then also on the left-hand side, if you want to find just the angle A, just the side A, because this is set up as A squared, on the first formula, again, you would have to take the square root to just find A. So anyway, let's do some math. Here we go. So we have a triangle. This one is just three sides are given to us. So if we want to find our angles, I would always suggest that you find, and if it's angles, right, you're using the right sides formulas. What you should do is you should find the angle of your biggest side. Why? Because then that means everything that you find after that should be smaller than that. And if it's not smaller, you've done some math incorrectly. So let's go ahead and do that math. So for cosine of B, cosine of B, that formula says A squared plus C squared minus B squared over 2AC, which for us would be A squared would be 8 squared plus 14 squared minus 19 squared over 2 times 8 times 14. Okay, if I do all of that math, I'm going to get approximately negative 0.45089. And again, this is nothing but throwing it in a calculator. Okay, now that's great and all, but that's not angle B, right? So to find angle B, I have to do the inverse of cosine of the ratio that we found, which is negative 0.45089. And that should give us about 116.8 degrees for B. Okay. All right. So now that you have that, and this is honestly probably it is the only section that you need to use Law of Cosines, because Law of Cosines takes a while, obviously. So the rest of this you can use with Law of Sines, because again, if you now have that angle B is 116.8 degrees, now you have a full alphabet, right? So you should be able to compare everything against that. So for example, if I wanted to find like A's information, for example, I would do, let's start with B's information, right? So I would do 19 over sine of 116.8 equal to A's information would be 8 over sine of A. Okay, if I cross multiply, that would tell me that sine of A is going to equal about 0.3758. Okay, but I don't want sine of A, I want actual angle A, right? So that's the same thing that we did on the last one. To find A, I have to find the inverse of sine of 0.3758, which is about 22.08 degrees. So this is 22.08. All right, now with two sides and I'm missing my last side, let's make this really easy. Let's just go back to the basics and know that the whole triangle's angles have to equal 180 degrees. So that's C equal to 180 degrees minus 116.8 degrees minus 22.08 degrees. And that's going to give me 41.12 degrees as C. And we have found everything that we needed. All right, let's look at the next one. So on this one, it says two sides and the included angles. So for side, angle, side. So find the remaining two angles and the side of the triangle. So, so the two angles that we are missing are, obviously we have angle B, angle C that are missing, and I'm missing side A. Okay, so to find that, again, I in no way, shape, or form, because I haven't been given a full alphabet, the only angle I was given was 115. Without being given side A, I can't use law of sines. All right, so let's make that very clear. I can't use law of sines. However, in order to get me to start using law of sines, it would be smart if I found side A. So to find side A, according to law of cosines, would be the formula A squared equal to B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine of A. Okay, if I put that information in, B is 15 squared plus C is 10 squared minus 2 times B is 15 times C is 10 times cosine of A, which is 115 degrees. Okay, if I do all of that math, I'm going to get that A squared is equal to 451.785, or approximately that. I said 785, right? Oops. 785. Okay. However, if I just want to find A, right, I would have to take the square root of that. So A is about 21.26 centimeters. So 21.26. Now I have a full A, right? So now I can use law of sines to find the rest of the information, which we will want to use that again because law of sines is a lot shorter than law of cosines. So since I have a full A, let's go ahead and find B's information. So that would be 21.26 over sine of 115 equal to B is 15, side B is 15. And again, I know that side B because it's opposite from angle B. So it's 15 over sine of B. Okay. If I do all that math, I would get that sine B is equal to 0.639. So to find B, then I would find the inverse of 0.639. Which is about 39.75 degrees. Okay, that's B. And then finally, to find C, we're just going to use the nice simple math of the sum of all of the angles of a triangle being 180 and subtracting all that we found. So C is going to be 180 minus the 115 that we were given, minus the 39.75 that we just found. And that's going to give us C as 25.25 degrees. And we are done. All right, guys, if you have any questions, please be sure to come see me for tutoring.